If you can just see it, do you even have to practice faith and belief? Hey there, I'm Mary. I have seen in the spirit since I was a little tiny child. That means that I have seen angels and demons, but much more importantly, Jesus. And it also means that I've had dreams and visions for most of my life, a lot of which come true. And because of that, sometimes people ask, well, if you can just see it, do you even have to practice faith? And I think a lot of people believe that if they could just have some sort of supernatural experience or occurrence, that all of their faith problems would just suddenly clear up. And I can assure you that that's not true. To assume that seeing and faith don't go together means that you have visionless faith. And by visionless faith, I mean that you don't know what your faith is directed towards. Because I can tell you that I and other seers that I know have had to grow in our faith and our belief that God is showing us something real, and that having a supernatural experience does not equate into not having to walk out a process. And trust me, it takes a lot of faith to engage with spiritual sight. And faith is a process of learning to trust God, to trust what you are seeing, to trust what you are being shown. And in fact, Jesus is a seer. He will see far more than I ever will. And in his 3 years of earthly ministry, it says that he only did what he saw the Father doing, which that's a whole word in and of itself, to only do what you see God doing, not just do what I think needs to be done and call it faith. Hello. But also, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. So there's this realization that there was a joy set before him that, stay with me now, Jesus would have had to have faith for. And it takes trust to engage in spiritual vision or sight with peace, because it takes faith in the Father to actually understand that we have to walk with God who loves us. We have to walk with him until what we see by faith becomes reality. Now, this differs for me from manifestation. Why? Because instead of trying to imagine something and think that it's true and beat myself up when it doesn't happen, for me, spiritual sight looks like asking for God to show me something, or for God to show me something, and then I choose to engage with that. And I choose to engage with a vision that I did not generate. And that's a very different process. That's a faith journey. I love Hebrews chapter 11, for example. Abraham saw, but we'll get to that in a minute. If you are engaging with true spiritual sight, you're almost certainly finding that the vision you receive is greater than what you could have imagined or manifested or thought of, and in fact will not require your efforts to get somewhere, but will require all of heaven to come and back you up. That's, I think, how you know the difference. And so if you have seen something that is bigger than you, that requires great faith to partner with, you are in really great company. Going back to Hebrews 11, I promised we would get there. By faith, Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born because they saw he was no ordinary child and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moses, left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. And I love too, Abraham is in this chapter. And God took him out to look at the stars in the sky, and he said, your descendants will be as many as this. And I mean, Abraham wouldn't have had light pollution back then. So, you go out into the sky now and it's not that many stars you can see. But he would have been out in the desert with no light pollution. And the stars are so much more than we realize. And at that time, Abraham didn't even have a child. He and his wife had had infertility issues for many years. But the vision, the image that God gave him was so vast. And Hebrews 11 celebrates him as a person who had vision and then faith. All these people, it says, were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on the earth. Having great vision involves having great faith. Seeing and hearing go together, because you could see a beautiful vision that God gives you, but God is the only one that can interpret a vision that God gives. So you have to learn how to hear along with it. So, can you walk by faith and not by sight as a seer? Absolutely, because it takes great vision and great faith to walk into something a long way off that you can't quite see yet. Hey there, I'm Mary. I write and teach on the spiritual realm. I have a course on spiritual sight that's linked below. We go a little bit more in depth than a YouTube commentary section will allow. But if you're just enjoying this video, or if you want some more free stuff, you can click the Substack link down below. Also hit that subscribe button so I don't slip away, and click for the next video.